Radio Bypass, bringing you rock and roll music that deserves to be heard. Discover new bands. Here's some old favorites on Radio Bypass.
Hey, rockers. Today on Radio Bypass, we have another band creating rock and roll music that deserves to be heard that you need to know about. Joining us today is Drew Cagle from Drew Cagle and The Reputation. How you doing, Drew?
Good, man. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming by Radio Bypass. Glad to have you here. You've got a brand new single that I got turned on to called All Figured Out, which I love, and we're going to play that at the end of this interview. But that song got me very interested in knowing your background and all about you. And I've read up what I can find on you, but I'd like you to share your story with our audience. Because it's intriguing to me that you're from Champaign, Illinois, not known for a ton of rock bands of this nature. REO Speedwagon, obviously a big one to come out of Champaign, but younger bands, I haven't heard too many playing this kind of rock and roll from your neck of the woods. So how did your band come to be?
Yeah, man. So my band is pretty much my story, and my albums and my singles that go through that tell my story through it. So I can just walk you through it if you'd like.
Absolutely.
Sweet. So when everything first started, I grew up in Champaign or around that area and the surrounding towns and in Champaign itself. And, once I decided that I wanted to pursue music and follow that journey, well, I guess I have to say where it started. So when I first figured out that I wanted to become a musician was when I had went and seen Guns N' Roses on their reunion tour in 2016. I saw them at Soldier Field in Chicago, and I think that was like the first or second show they had even scheduled back with Slash, Duff, and Axl all together.
Right.
And so I was just that show, changed my life. It was a combination of, no one knowing what was going to happen. Was it going to fly off the rails like everyone thought it, like it did in the 90s? Were they, did Slash remember the solos? Could Axl still hit the high notes? All that stuff, And I was so enthralled with that feeling of mystery,
Uh-huh.
with when it came to music. And then when they hit the stage, man, it was explosive, and everything was just perfect, and it felt dangerous, and it felt real, and it felt raw.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so great, and I watched their, Axl's musical vision, connect with a sold out Soldier Field, we were back in the nosebleeds,
Right.
and I watched him connect with people that were so like where you couldn't even see him, and watch his music and their music touch people's lives. And I was like, man, I want to be able to do this for somebody, even if it's one person. It doesn't have to be the whole stadium, but if I can do this for one person, then I think that's the closest thing, some little kid from Champaign, Illinois is ever going to be able to do to changing the world. That's the closest thing I'm ever going to get there. So, or making a difference. So that is kind of where my musical journey started. And then
Okay.
once I figured out what I wanted to do, I made sure that I wanted to capture the elements that made that so special to me, and then figure out my own way to give you a unique experience that only I could give you. And so as that ended up going further, I ended up starting to write a lot of songs. I started to get really into songwriting, and I spent a lot of time, in the woodshed getting good and honing my craft and stuff. And when it came
You are,
time,
had you already been playing at the time of 2016 when you saw this Guns N' Roses show? Had you already picked up instruments, or is that what prompted you to start playing as well?
it's what prompted me to do it for real, or like just take it seriously. I think maybe one time I had maybe sang or something before, but never really, in front of people or stuff like that. But that was the moment. I sang for fun, but it wasn't ever. I never thought to myself, I can give people something. when I did it. And then once I saw that that was something that could happen, then I dedicated my life to being able to do something like that.
Okay.
So, you know, then I proceeded to, write songs and stuff like that. And, I found out that that's what makes me special. It was never being able to sing the highest or play piano the best or play the guitar the best. It was always, um, what I can write and my vision that I can portray. And
Hmm.
so what happened is I got older and I started trying to, go out and I wanted to play my songs for people because I wanted to see what was good and what was bad and what could connect with people and what wouldn't. And I got met with no one wanted to hear me, no one wanted to give me an opportunity because kind of like how we had mentioned a little bit before we got on air, the Champaign music scene and the Illinois music scene, in the recent years, last 10 years, is not very open to original artists.
For
And so when
sure.
you come out and you say, I want to move people with words that I've written, um, most people, will just turn away from you, or especially if they're a venue owner, they say, get the hell out of here, you know?
Right.
And so with that, you know, I ended up making a record and they had this, whole intricate vision for it, which was Haunted. And it was a concept album. And, I had gone out and I had tried to play my music in front of people and was left with not many opportunities. Even open mic nights wouldn't really have me much because there wasn't many in the time. And then I ended up being known around town as the guy who wants to play original music, and it was kind of like a little bit of a laughing stock that got from it, because I'm not up there playing, Johnny Be Good and the worst rendition of Don't Stop Believing you could possibly imagine, you
Right.
know, and it was kind of funny to see that all these people, I tried to develop a band because I realized, I can't make rock music just by myself. And so when I put that together, I ran into a lot of, you know, weird, weird responses from musicians and stuff like that because they didn't quite understand what I was trying to do. The people around the area were so in this cover band mindset that they didn't understand that no, I have a vision and I'm trying to give people something that they haven't seen before.
Hmm.
And that's kind of something that got lost from the REO days in Champaign. And it was kind of sad to see it happen, because REO touched so many people with their vision that they had. And same thing with Cheap Trick and
Hmm.
people like that. But Illinois kind of started to get away from it in certain areas, especially when it came to someone trying to start out and do it. So
Right.
I built a little bit of a reputation for myself as someone that was hard to work with just because all I cared about was portraying a vision the correct way. And people around town started, black blackmailing me or blackballing me, I guess, and keeping me from playing in certain venues and most venues around Champaign because of this desire to play original music. And so I just took that and I end up saying, you know what? All these people around here say I'm this bad guy. They say I've got this terrible reputation. They say I'm horrible to work with. Well, why don't I just make that my band name?
Hmm.
And then I did that. And so it turned into this thing of, well, every time you see me live, I'm bringing my reputation with me. So that's where the Drew Cagle The Reputation name comes from, is because there's two different things that's going to happen. There's going to be me who shows up as who I am, and there's going to be me who shows up and who you think I am. And
Hmm.
that's what the kind of concept of Drew Cagle The Reputation comes from. And my thing that I've always believed is for true authentic rock and roll, you need two elements. You need mystery and you need danger. And that's rooted in that Guns N' Roses show I was telling you about earlier, but it's also rooted in so many different things if you really are a student of rock and roll.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's just the thing I always say is, you never want to know what Mick Jagger had. I don't want to know what Mick Jagger had for breakfast, this last week,
Right.
or where Steven Tyler, buys toothpaste, that kind of thing. That's not rock and roll. That's not cool. The thing that's cool about rock and roll is the mystery and the danger if you don't know what's going to happen next.
Hmm.
And I wanted to bring that to people. And this whole time, I guess I've just been trying to figure out the right way to do it. And I think I finally got it all figured out, if you want my little cheesy joke there, uh, as we get into our new single and stuff.
Right.
Because, yeah, so the way that worked was, and anyway, to get me to end up, getting to where I am today, I recorded a record, kind of like a, basement recording or whatever, the haunted EP or whatever. And still, Champagne didn't really want too much to do with me. They let me in here and there, but then I just decided, I'm like, if they don't want me here, I'm gonna go find the people that want the music, that want to hear something different. And that's what I did. I went to all the surrounding major cities and I played my music to anyone who would hear it. And I built a fan base around the Midwest and proceeded to only come back to Champaign when it was time for me to, when there was a very, very big show offer, or it was something that I felt was the correct show for me to be able to touch people the correct way with my
Right.
music. And so that built up. And also the Haunted record, when it first came out, the main concept of that is, it's a record about being haunted by, your past regrets and figuring out how to deal with them and how to overcome them and what happens once you face them.
Hmm.
And that was this artistic piece that I kept trying to give to people that um, I think they weren't ready for at the time. I wasn't at the place I am now, and I didn't have the correct resources to deliver my vision the way it should have been at that time. And I'm not saying Haunted was a failure by any means. It's the album almost has 1 million streams now. But to me, in one certain aspect of it, I just felt like people kind of missed my vision. And I was in true rock and roll spirit, when you're told, I don't want what you have, or I think you are a certain way, or you're this way, or you're that way, every true rock and roller is just going to look back at them, flip them off, and say, yeah, well, I'm going to prove you wrong. you
Hmm.
know that was what All Figured Out does. This is my response to, all the people in Champaign, all the people around the world that may have said, yeah, that Drew Cagle guy, he's not my thing, or he's not that good, or I'm not feeling it. He's just some small town kid that, there's a lyric in the song that says small town rock star wannabe. And, we just, that's on our t-shirts now. It's a main piece of our branding, and it's a main piece of who I am. So that this song, All Figured Out, is the closest thing we have to me just straight up saying, well, screw you guys, I'm going to prove you wrong. And that's where we're going with this massive tour that we did, and that we're on the process of now. And
Yeah, and say you have a lot of dates coming up.
yeah, yeah, got a bunch of cool ones. The tour kicked off few months, or about a month or so ago. We had some shows with Mr. Big. We had some shows with April Wine. Uh, we joined the To Hell with the Amps tour with Striper, which was really cool. We played with Three Dog Night a few nights ago, and got some shows next month with Great White and Slaughter and Trickster and stuff. So we're getting around, and we're having a blast doing it.
That's awesome. Well, man, I got to tell you, hearing this whole story, I've got to commend you for staying true to yourself. You didn't let discouragement change your path, and that's not always easy to do. And I'm assuming you found some like-minded musicians eventually that make up the band, or was this song recorded just with session people?
Yeah, I'd love to tell you about that. That's a really cool story too. Um, Before I get to the band and the recording stuff, what you said as the so I gave you the two elements for true rock and roll a little bit ago. There's
Right.
one element for true music that for music that should be overall, that just to make sure the difference between good and bad, sucks and doesn't suck. And that's authenticity. If an artist isn't writing a song with authenticity and from the heart, it's never going to touch anyone else's heart, and it's going to sound terrible, and it's going
Agreed.
to suck. And so that's always been my vision. Is because, like I said, my vision has always been to use my music to connect with people and help them pretty much escape from their problems. And authenticity is what needs to happen from that. And so that's what my main goal has always been. Um, so moving on to when we were getting ready to put together this band, um, my bands are all hired guns. I find musicians um, across the Midwest or across the U.S. and put together bands for different runs or different periods of time, depending on what works best for the music and the vision I'm trying to push out on that specific tour or those specific shows.
Mhm.
Um, I don't find too many people that are excited to jump on someone else's vision. Most musicians, true musicians that are like-minded enough like me, want to portray their own musical vision. And I absolutely root for that in anybody. So I find the people that um, rather will aid me for a period of time, and we'll put in the work to make sure this vision gets put the right way. And then if it ever comes to a point where they want to go and portray their own musical vision, I always let that happen,
Mhm.
because I would be one of those guys that stands in the way of uh, their own words and their music that comes from their heart moving people too, because we're on the same journey there.
Sure.
So what I ended up doing was I decided that I did the first record. It was like the basement recording. We just a bunch of guys around. We put it together, and I was like, you know what? Like I said, I didn't feel like the Haunted album accomplished what I wanted it to accomplish. I mean, I have a different thought process on it now, but back when I was first getting into this, I didn't feel that it did what it was supposed to do. So I said, you know
What do
what?
you feel? What do you feel it didn't achieve?
I don't know. I don't really know what I was trying to achieve. You never really know with stuff like that. I guess I wanted to prove something to people. I don't know if I wanted to prove people wrong, but I wanted to prove people that my vision was worth listening to. And my vision was, if you just opened your mind to it, I could help deliver you to a better place, even for a moment in time, just because of the music that I was able to create, or help you escape your own problems just for a minute if you just jumped on this ride with me.
Mhm.
That I just didn't think it achieved it the way I wanted it to achieve at that point in time. Now I've later been shown that it has done that, and I've had numerous experiences from playing those songs at live shows that has obviously moved people, and it's moved me watching them get moved. So through the music. So
Well, and I have to add to that. I told you before we started this interview that I went to find out more about you after I got turned on to All Figured Out. And I listened through that record. Oh, I've only had a chance to listen through it once, but I will be listening to it more in the future again. And I think it's really good. And hearing you describe how it was recorded and everything makes me like it even more, honestly. So I think
oh,
you did a
well,
great job with that record.
yeah, when I look back on it, whenever you're a creator, you always look back at the mistakes and with critiques more than at a finished product than you should what you accomplished. And when I look back at it now, when I look back at it before, I looked at it differently. I wanted to sound like a radio album. And instead it didn't, it sounded like what it was. It sounded like a basement, very raw, you know, songwriter album.
Hmm.
That's when I look back at it now, that's what I see. I see that that was me giving my vision to people in a songwriting standpoint. There's the production isn't the best on it, and there isn't any crazy over the top like there is some great moments, but there's nothing that is truthfully like wildly grabs you. I think that the thing that makes that record good and what's connected with so many people is the vision and is the words and the lyrics and the journey that I take you on from track 1 to track 8.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's a song that singles necessarily speak louder than it would if you listen to the whole record. And that's what I see it now as, and I like that. I like to see it as that, because now I see what's on the horizon and I know what's coming for you guys, and I know that you're gonna get everything I wanted the first record to be coming up very soon. And so now, to me, that piece of music is something special for the back catalog for people that really want to dig into a musical journey I can give you. But now when we go over to All Figured Out, it's everything that I want it to be. It can give you a musical journey in itself and give you a message and something you can relate to, but it also has the best musicians in the world on the record.
Mm-hmm.
And so going into the recording that recording process, I decided, Haunted wasn't what I thought it was going to be. So I was going to make this next one the best record ever, that I could possibly imagine and create at this period of time.
Right.
So I said, all right, this is what I'm doing. I'm going down to Nashville and I'm recording it down there. And so I ended up getting the producer from the Eagles, Matt Coles, and he's produced the Eagles, Alice Cooper, Dan and Shay, just a bunch of the best, artists down there.
Mm-hmm.
And he hooked me up with all his studio musicians down there for the record. So we ended up on the record. There's Shannon Forrest from Toto, and he's the touring drummer for Toto. Also played on all the Taylor Swift hits too. And we got Saul Littlefield, who plays with Luke Combs and Jelly Roll on all their records.
Mm-hmm.
Craig Young played with Elton John. He's the touring bass player for Post Malone right now. And Sam Hunter, he's played with Willie Nelson. And so we put together this just A-list all-star cast of people that have played with the best musicians in the world and are the best musicians in the world. And so we went down there, and well, I might as well tell you the inside story of like how it actually happened, because it's pretty cool too. So what happened was I go down there to Nashville, and I was obviously nervous because I had just had this other experience recording the other record, and I was like, I've been touring these songs with my live band. I'm a little nervous that using some guys that have never heard the songs before, like what's going to happen. And I told my worries to my producer, Matt, and he was kind of shrugged them off like, don't worry about it, man, you'll be fine. And I was just very naive then. I didn't quite understand the scope of the talent that is in those A-list studio musician rooms. I just didn't understand it at that point in time.
Sure.
All I knew was in order to sound good, you have to rehearse a lot.
Right.
So what happened was I had 7 songs that I had sent to him, and about 2 days before I go down to Nashville, I write this new song, and it's called All Figured Out. And I just had sat in my garage and wrote it on acoustic, and I was like, man, this thing, it came together in about an hour or two. And I was like, man, this thing is kind of cool. I really like it. It feels like all these other songs on the record too, and it has a great message. I would love to see if I could get it on there, but I was like, no, I'm not going to send it over them and tell them to add it to the session, because I don't want to add to their list. And I figured they had already been rehearsing these songs this whole time.
Mm-hmm.
So I sent it over to my producer, Matt, and he's like, oh, man, the song sounds great. We'll do it. Throw it on the session. And I said, are you sure, man? He's like, dude, don't worry about it. They got it. What I didn't understand is all these studio guys hadn't even heard any of the songs I had sent over yet. And they were all going to listen to them for the first time ever in the session when we first got there. So,
okay, surprise for you.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, that's so cool that they're throwing in this new song last minute, and they're just gonna get all 8 songs and not even know that this was the last minute song. And so I get down to Nashville. I'm staying in a hotel, and my producer Matt says, "I'll pick you up, and we're gonna record this thing at Shannon's house, who's the drummer for Toto." And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." And I didn't quite know who everyone on the record was gonna be yet. I had known a little bit. He said, "I'm gonna hook you up with my guys," and that was about it.
So
And so
you put a lot of your trust into Matt.
I did, and that was probably the best investment I ever made.
Hmm.
And can't thank him enough. Um, and so he picks me up from the studio or from my hotel and takes me over to Shannon's house. And so I'm expecting, hey, we're recording in Nashville. We're gonna go down on Music Row and we're gonna, play up at Blackbird and all these, famous, studios. And I didn't, and we drive and he starts going out in the country of Tennessee, of Nashville. And I'm like, what in the hell? Like, what do you mean? We're not going down next to Broadway? Yeah. And he's like, no, don't worry about it. We're gonna go over to Shannon's house. I said, oh, okay, cool. So then we're going out, we're going through the hills. There's no houses around anymore. We're in the country like crazy. I'm like, is this a mistake? This kind of get a little sketchy. I wonder what's gonna
You
happen.
kidnapping me? What's going on here?
Yeah, yeah. So he ends up taking a left. We pull into like some trees and we go over this like gravel bridge. And I was like, what's kind of going on here? And then so we pull into this driveway, this long driveway in the country, and it's starting to get sketchy. And I'm like, what's going on? And then right before I said something, I look over and there's 3 muscle cars parked to the side of the driveway with like sheets on them, and they are awesome looking. And I was like, oh my gosh, what's that? And my producer just casually, is like, oh yeah, that's I think Shannon's a pretty big car guy. And I said, oh, okay, cool. And so we kept driving, and then we pull up to the studio. We tried past his house. And we pull up to the studio, and there's a jet black, I think it's a Camaro or a Mustang. It was this badass muscle car that was just right out there, uh, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's sick. And he's like, well, looks like Shannon's here. And I said, oh, okay. And so as we get out, I start walking up to this building, and the building is like covered in like vines and moss. It's super cool. And all you can really see is like the door. It looked like something like out of Lord of the Rings or something.
Okay.
And so, they open the door for me. We start carrying gear, and I walk in, and I look around the room, and I realize what's going on. How talented these musicians are in the room and who they played with and what the seriousness of the situation was.
Mhm.
And the studio he has built at his house is one of the coolest places, the coolest room probably I've ever walked into. It's built for drums, because he's the drummer.
Right.
And yeah, and so it's super tall, like so all the sounds can go up into the overheads and stuff.
Mhm.
And so what it is like the walls around the room, it's like an oval shape. It's super tall. And the walls there's cutouts in the walls for snares. So the walls are covered with snares. Just so many different snares.
That's
And
cool.
yeah, and then he has like a little like a ledge and an awning on top of the like top of the ceiling where he has some of his old touring kits that he'd used for like Toto and different bands, and he has them set up like kind of like Christmas trees at the top of the place. It was super cool. And then the room over is a bunch of different recording stuff. So anyway, we end up getting in there, kind of meeting each other. They were all super cool, and they were like, "Hey, what are we doing today?" And I was like, "Okay, yeah." So I got this rock record, small town kid telling all these seasoned guys, I got this rock record I need you guys to play on. I don't know if you kind of get it. And and I ended up showing them all figured out. And it starts, they about 30 seconds into it, or about a minute into it, they're like, oh, we got it. And I was like, what? And they're like, no, we got it, man. That's going to be cool. I was like, but wait a minute, you haven't heard there's this big stop later on in the song and there's all this other stuff. And they're like, yeah, I'm sure there is, buddy. We got it. you know.
Shut
And
up,
then
let's record.
yeah, yeah, and then they went out and just absolutely killed it, in about 2 takes maybe. And that song was super cool to do because, like I said, I had written it a few days before, so I had
Right.
no previous ideas of what this song is supposed to sound like. Because when you'll play them songs live and tour them a little bit and kind of craft them into what they're supposed to be. But that song specifically, I walked in with no like preconceived notions of what it's supposed to be, and I just told them, I said, "Hey, if you think it sounds good, let's do it." And so it was really cool because I actually got to collaborate with all these people on that song. And if someone's like, "Hey, if you got an idea, throw it out. We'll see what happens." And this is what happened.
Right.
And it was really cool because all of the songs kind of what those studio guys down there is they don't get to really show off too much because they play on a lot of those country records where they really want to take the emotion kind of out of it and kind of just put you in a backbeat and like a background kind of thing so the vocalists can kind of shine, or the main star can shine. And so I immediately walked in there and I was like, "Hey, this is rock and roll. I want you guys, and you guys are the best musicians in the world. I want you guys to give me everything you got. Don't pull back anything. Don't pull any punches. Let's just balls to the wall. Let's do this the right way." And man, their faces lit up when they saw that, and they were like, "Oh yeah, you got it. We can do that." And man, it was just so cool because we were all just in the same room jamming, and we banged out 8 songs in one day.
Nice.
We did the whole thing in one day, and it was super cool. We had Shannon when we had our lunch break. Shannon ended up taking us out in the muscle car, and we ended up driving and listening to the Stones or whatever on his new stereo that he put in the car. And we got some barbecue, and then we came back and we kept working, and it was just a great time.
Man, that's awesome. So you mentioned 8 songs. So obviously you got a full record coming at some point. Do we have a release date for a follow-up single or the whole thing coming out?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm trying to keep it a little bit close to chest here on this stuff, so I can't really give you an album name yet or a release date. But I can tell you
Sometime this year at least, though, right?
you can expect at least another single this year, at
Okay.
least.
Okay.
Uh, we're gonna see how All Figured Out does and how the tour is received, and pretty much see what people want coming from after that, and then we're gonna hit them with the. We got a couple aces in the hole, so there's some cool stuff coming. Um, yeah, there's 7 other songs that were recorded in that specific session in that day. Um, they all are accumulated similar to um, Haunted, as in they do tell a story as well. I'm not in this game to make singles. I'm in this game to tell stories and make records and give you a musical journey to be on. Whether you choose to join us on song number 1 or you choose to join us on song number 6, um, I will have a musical journey waiting for you whenever you're ready for it. So I can tell you this: All Figured Out is track number 1 on the record. So
It's a
when
good way to
so
lead off
people
a
are,
record.
yeah. So it's the first single is the first song. So everyone here now is starting with us on chapter 1. And so if you like you know, uh, I'm gonna prove you wrong, chip on my shoulder, type song that All Figured Out has, you have very reason to expect that this is going to continue in this type of fashion for the rest of the record.
Nice. Love it. So let me ask you this. You've got with because you've been so dedicated to how you wanted things to be and didn't let the naysayers bring you down or change your path. When you're playing live, is it all your material or do you throw in a few covers?
So it is very, very strongly mostly my material, and it has been that way for a long time. Um, More recently, we've started to bring in covers, but the covers are normally changed very
frequently?
Yeah, or the nature of the cover is changed
Put
to
a
fit.
little own stamp on it.
Yes, to fit my vision, and it will fit in the set list where I would have put a song of my own there, but it will be, done a different way. If you, I'm sure if anyone is interested in hearing what I'm talking about, you can find it on YouTube or our Facebook page. We do this really cool cover of "Ain't No Rest for the Wicked," where we make it all hard rock, put a couple guitar solos in there, and do some real cool stuff with it. And that's pretty much kind of what I like to do. There's only maybe a few songs that sometimes when you cover a song, it needs to be just like the record, and sometimes you have the ability to make it your own.
Mhm.
And try to, um, I try when we do a cover, I try to make it my own, unless it's one of those absolutely iconic covers that need to be turned into or need to be shown that the only difference is how I sing it. So I kind of ride the line every once in a while, but my shows are very prominently based around my vision and my songs. And those covers come in when it's time to move you to a different side of my vision or open your eyes to the next, what's coming next.
Mhm. Awesome. Awesome. Well, Drew, I gotta hand it to you, man. I appreciate a young person like yourself, number one, loving this kind of rock and roll.
Yeah,
Number
man.
two, being strong-willed enough to stick with it without necessarily being in a great environment for that. It sounds like you had a lot of rejection and a lot of naysayers in the beginning, but I think you're going to succeed in doing what you want to do, which is prove everybody wrong. That
Oh yeah.
a good career ahead of you, as good as it can be in today's music business, anyway. Um, and just keep doing what you're doing, man. Hone your material, and I'm impressed just hearing the way you talk about your songwriting. I can see that you're really passionate about it, and that's refreshing. I love that, and I love artists that have that kind of passion and dedication to that craft because not everyone does, and um, you know, definitely being a musician ain't for cowards. You got to be tough and without being a dick, of course. And it seems like you're well on your way, and it's amazing to me. I mean, I see you got a lot of dates coming up throughout the Midwest. We'll have to get you out and join another fellow Illinoisan here. We'll have to get you out to the West Coast too. But
Yeah.
it's been great. Is there any before we wrap things up? First of all, everybody, Drew does have a website, drewcagle.com, Drew Cagle and the Reputation on social media. Check them out, follow them. And what I want to do, obviously, at the end of this is play All Figured Out, the current single. But because I am now a convert and went back to your album that I missed in 2021, that I'm glad I know about now, I'd love for you to pick, and especially because you're so thoughtful about everything, I'd love for you to pick something for us to play after All Figured Out from that record. What would you recommend?
Yeah. So I'll tell you what, before I give you my recommendations, thank you for saying, that it's refreshing to hear about, new music and rock like me, because like I said earlier, that's my main goal. If I can make someone feel energized from my music or excited to hear rock music again just because of something I did, then I've done it right. Then I've accomplished my goal. So I
Right.
appreciate you keeping and listening to this with an open mind. Um, but yeah, so as far as another song from Haunted, I'd say there's two songs from Haunted that need to be heard from me in order to understand where we come from.
All right.
And
I'm going to write them down. Good. Whenever you're ready.
I would say 415 to Denver, it's the second to last track.
Hmm.
That's the crescendo pretty much of the record. Like I said, it's talking about a bunch of your past regrets and how you get through them and how you deal with them and how you process them. 4:15 to Denver is the moment you do and how you react to it. And then the song directly after that is called Back to the Light. And that song is the aftermath of it. It's the aftermath of how what now? Once you figure out that there's life after your past, what do you do after that? And so, both of those two songs have become a staple of our live shows. Um, I'd say either one of those would be cool for you to listen to.
I think we have to go with both. So I think we're just going to play the new single and those two at the end of this interview.
Well, perfect then. Perfect then. And then just as a heads up, right after Back to Light, you can pretty much expect that All Figured Out, the new single, is a response to the end of Back to the Light. So the journey does continue.
Got it. You are a deep thinker, my friend, and I love it. And I love when people write songs, from deep inside, because that's something some young musicians don't get. They can play everything technically perfect, but they don't know how to get their own soul into the music yet. A lot of the young musicians, and obviously you've thought about that a lot, and have accomplished that. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
And before we end, also, we mentioned that you weren't going to come on camera for this, but you had an interesting reason why. So why are we not seeing the handsome face of Drew Cagle here today?
Well, like I said in the beginning, the main core elements that are important for rock music is danger and mystery. And if everyone sees my face all the time, there's no mystery. There's a look. There's maybe two places online you can truthfully see what I look like without sunglasses on. And if you really want to find out, then you're gonna have to go stalk our page and follow us and find all that stuff. I'm gonna make you work for it.
Well, even better, come to a show.
Yeah. Well, I've had fans actually. So when we do our shows, I my look is pretty similar to what you see on the front of that cover.
Okay.
Uh, I've had it's kind of funny. I've had multiple fans multiple times pay me or offer to pay me a bunch of money to have me take my sunglasses off or have me take my hat off or anything like that, and they all get the same responses. You know, the coolness factor of rock and roll is rooted in mystery, and once you've solved the mystery, then you're looking for a new one, and I'm gonna make you work for it if you're gonna try to solve this one.
I love it. I love it. That is definitely another throwback because certainly bands like Led Zeppelin back when I was young, it was a big deal. You didn't have the social media and the internet and all these things. You had some magazines that see some pictures and maybe an interview or something. But otherwise, you had no idea what these people were all about and where they were when they were on tour, where they were staying.
Exactly.
Everything, like you say, was mysterious, and it did add a certain, I guess, wow factor. Even when you'd go see the bands live, like I remember as a young person going to my first concerts. I didn't know anything about these people really, other than a little bit from a magazine called Circus or Hit Parade, um,
Yeah.
and and I guess that actually is kind of cool. And it does seem like all that's gone now. Everything's instantaneous, and we have to know everything about everyone. So
Absolutely.
I respect that about you too, that you want to bring a little of the mysteriousness back to rock and roll.
Yeah, it's got to be. I would even argue that one of the main reasons that rock and roll has lost some of the mystique and lost some of its respect and put in the mainstream thing is because a lot of the modern rock bands is everything about them. You know where they from the moment they wake up in the morning to the moment they go to bed, they're posting shit on their stories and Instagram and Facebook and stuff, and it's like you know it's really hard to have someone be really excited or get caught up in the aura of a rock star. You know, like I said, if they know where you buy your groceries.
Right. Well, I appreciate where you're coming from, young man.
Thank you, man.
All right. Well, everybody, we've been talking to Drew Cagle and The Reputation. And we now know the story behind this band. And I cannot wait to share these songs with everybody. Again, check out drewcagle.com, follow him on social media, enjoy the mystery, and go see him live if you can. I know you got dates coming up all throughout the Midwest, Michigan, I saw, Missouri, Illinois. So go check these guys out. And thank you, Drew, for coming by and sharing your story with Radio Bypass.
Yeah, thank you, man. That was a great time. Hope we can do it again.
We will. All right, everybody, check this out. Drew Cagle and The Reputation, their latest single, and then we're going to go into a couple of tracks from their first full-length record. But right now, this is All Figured Out.
Stab you in the back if he gets a chance. Fate's calling my name. What's in store? I can't live in the dark no more. Even though you can't see it, so sweet to the touch. And you gotta be careful not to take too much. Separate the dark, the light by a thin line of gold. If I chose to walk the line, could have been so bold. I hear it calling to me. Won't you come back to the light? Living in the dark till